Hello and welcome to GCSE Sociology. I'm Sophia Kamran and I'm really delighted to introduce this subject to you. GCSE Sociology is a broad-based and comprehensive syllabus, and it offers rich insights into the different themes of sociology like families and households, social stratification, crime and deviance, and education. We're going to talk about the social structures, the social processes, as well as the social issues. And we'll be also talking about the key sociologists, the profound thinkers like Karl Marx, Emil Durkheim, Max Weber, and more, who have given a lot of substance and enrichment to this subject. I will also be dealing with a number of significant studies and citations, which you need to incorporate in your exam answers. And there will be definitely support and backup for you in terms of notes and in terms of practice sessions, as well as if you'll require any live session, that can also be arranged. So rest assured, everything is covered. So I'll meet you soon. Right now, I'm going to talk about a little bit about the introduction to GCSE Sociology as a subject. We'll be introducing you the different important aspects, like a little bit about the sociologists, as well as the key processes, as well as the issues that are actually handled by the different social actors as well. So let's take a deep dive into it.
So let me introduce the subject to you. This is GCSE Sociology. Course code is 8192. And let's introduce the subject. Now, what is the definition of sociology? Sociology basically is a subject that explores human social life, relationships, and interactions in societies, communities, and groups. Sociologists study how society shapes our behavior and how we, in turn, influence the society. So, many people believe that it's basically a structured and a systematic study of society. It's basically that structure which sees that how people interact, how institutions function, and how social structures shape our daily lives. So it looks at patterns of behavior in different groups such as families, schools, workplaces, and entire societies. So let's take a quick look at how did it all originate from? How did sociology start and had its evolution? Sociology as a subject developed in 19th century when rapid changes like industrialization, urbanization, and revolutions kind of transformed societies. People started questioning why social problems existed and how society functioned. So there were some very important questions. Unlike personal opinions or common sense, sociology relies on research, evidence, and theories to explain social issues. So sociologists ask questions like, why do some people have more power and wealth than others? How does the media influence public opinion? What roles do schools play in shaping future generations? And more pertinently, have you ever wondered what is culture? You must be seeing the different cultures around you. And why do social norms differ across cultures? Like every culture or every kind of ethnic uh, group, they have many differences amongst each other. How does society shape our daily life, our mundane life? And how do our actions and interactions impact upon the social world? For instance, in Britain, people generally view themselves as independent individuals who make their own life choices. Um, for instance, teenagers select their friends, their clothing, their own kind of music, while adults decide whether to marry and which career to pursue. Now, let's say that how sociology is different from the other subjects. Like we'll try to comparison as an example that how it is different from psychology. Many people compare sociology with psychology as well. And there are many people who try to make a parallel with this subject with, the very technical subjects like journalism. So, like, let's see that in what ways the three are different from each other. The comparison, when we see the first point is that how does sociology study society? So, like, and what does it study? So, sociology studies society as a whole, whereas psychology studies the mind and behavior of individuals. So, it's quite, one single person's or individual's, particular kind of brain wave or their own working of the mind. Whereas journalism, it reports on news and current events. What can be the different methods that are used by the three subjects? Sociology uses research methods like surveys, interviews, and statistical analysis, whereas psychology uses experiments and case studies to study individuals when we talk about methodology. Journalism, on the other hand, uses opinions, facts, and reports to inform the public. What are the focus of the three disciplines? So, like sociology focuses on social structures, groups, and institutions. On the other hand, psychology focuses on individual thoughts, emotions, and mental processes, whereas journalism focuses on specific events and stories in society. Now, you can see now how sociology is very different from other subjects. It's a very broad-based subject. It studies society. The focus is society. The methods are quite, they're quite wide-ranging, and the focus on the structures is another edge that this subject has over the other academic disciplines. Now, let's see how social structures, the different social processes and issues are studied within this academic framework. What are social structures? The term social structures refers to key parts of society, such as families, the education system, the political system, and the criminal justice system. Sociologists explore the relationships between these structures, such as how family background influences students' performance in GCSE exams. So, that can be one example of how society is working around a very structured way, in a very systematic way. Now, there are social processes as well. What are social processes? A social process refers to the patterns of interaction, behavior, and relationships through which individuals and groups influence and shape society. It involves the ways in which people learn cultural norms, maintain order, and experience change within a social structure. One key social process is socialization, which is the way individuals learn the culture and way of life of their society. Sociologists examine how this learning happens, who is involved, and the role of institutions like families and schools in the process. Another crucial social process is social control, which refers to how people's behavior is regulated. Sociologists investigate how social control is exercised, who enforces it, and whether individuals or groups resist or challenge social control. They also explore whose interests are served by these processes. Studying social processes helps us understand how society functions and why certain behaviors or norms even exist. Now, there are social issues as well. So what are social issues? They are the problems or, the issues that affect communities, groups, and individuals. For instance, in education, social issues include debates about academics and grammar schools. When we talk about families, social issues can be concerns including elderly care and forced marriage. Many social issues are also considered social problems because they harm society. For example, um, there's the social issues that can be considered as the problems. The collective problems can include racism, sexism, ageism, poverty, domestic violence, and hate crimes. There are some key concepts in sociology which help us develop a sociological mindset. So let's develop that. And for that, let's go over some key concepts that are essential in sociology. Like some concepts are actually The baseline ones of the introduction of which is actually given, some flavor of it. I tried to give it previously. Like later on, I'll be discussing some issues like socialization. But let's define society first. What is society? A society is a group of individuals who share various commonalities such as culture, religion, language, and collectivity. And they basically all together they inhabit a specific territory. So there are two levels of society. One is the mental base, and the other is the belief base or the idea base of ideology. So this collectivity is bound together by shared beliefs, forming a cohesive unit with a sense of identity and connection. Society involves both physical and mental spaces. Many people say that how society is a product of social construction. The idea that society is a product of social construction, it means that many things in society, like rules, the roles, values, all are created by people rather than being natural or fixed. An example of society as a product of social construction is race. Although people have different skin colors and features, society creates categories and meanings around race. These categories differ across cultures and times, showing that race is not a natural fact, but something shaped by society's ideas. A very profound theme of sociology is culture, or key idea or concept can be, culture can be that one, that particular theme, which is, predominant and which can be seen across the globe. In sociology, culture refers to the shared beliefs, values, norms, practices, behaviors, symbols, and artifacts that a group of people use to understand the world and interact with each other. It encompasses everything from language and religion to customs and art forms, shaping how individuals in a society live, communicate, and relate to their environment and one another. Now, the more commonly used or more mundane or regular definition of culture can be that culture, the way of life of people that involves norms, traditions, and beliefs of a society. And there are some very significant characteristics or feature of culture. That number one, it is learned. We all know that we learn culture. It's not something that is was just injected to us, inherited. We did not inherit it from our parents. It is shared. A single person culture is not culture. A culture is something that is shared by too many people. It is dynamic. It keeps on changing. What you have as a culture it's not something that your forefathers had. They had very different culture. Now your culture is very so it's dynamic rather than being static. It's transmittable. The the characteristic that is learned says a lot that it is transmittable. When we learn our culture from the others, from our parents, from the our surroundings. So that means it is transmittable. It can be actually transferred from one generation to the other. And since it's a great way of learning as well. In order to make sense of cultural interaction, there are various things, various categories of understanding that we are going to learn under the cultural category. So we need to understand these ingredients of culture. As almost all cultures are built around rules, customs, values, and norms, let's explore what all these are. Now, what are roles? Roles are basically expected patterns of behavior which are expected with each position that we hold, such as being a friend, student, or teacher. Roles are always played in relation to the other roles. That means they are reciprocal. For example, for a person to play the role of a parent, the role of a child is inevitable to exist. Roles help individuals to develop the ability to form groups and communities. And one another thing is that every role has a name or a label. This name identifies a particular role and carries with it a sense of how people are expected to behave in any situation. For example, a woman being a woman can play a number of roles, like she can be a mother, she can be a wife, at the same time, she can be a friend or sibling, but at the same time, she can be an officer, she can be a teacher or a lawyer. So she can wear many hats. And this is how, different people perform different roles within, the society according to their own social position. And Likewise, in this way, like there are many more concepts, associated concepts to it, like um, role expectations or role conflict. When people are, expected to behave in a certain way, that is called role expectation. But when people are not able to perform too many roles efficiently at the same time, then there is a role conflict, a situation of role conflict that can arise. Values is often read and understood in which is quite popularly a thing, a concept that is taught and understood in sociology. And what are values? They are basically the overarching rules, the broader behavior rules or guidelines for the roles to be performed. So they give a sense of right and wrong, desirable and undesirable. They can also be considered broader overarching guidelines that are agreed upon by any society unquestionably or collectively. For example, in all societies, education is considered to be a core value for people to become better human beings. Similarly, honesty, integrity, graciousness, and rule of law are commonly aspired as higher mottos of civilized societies. However, values do not specifically describe how these guidelines can be practiced. So, in this way, values can be vague, broad, or something that we need to further break down. So we'll be doing that later on. So in fact, the specific behavioral guidelines that tell people how to successfully play a role are called something that is, you got it right, norms. So norms are basically those actions or regular patterns which signify which value system are they actually transpiring or reflecting. What are norms? Specific rules that describe, define, or ensure enforcement of a particular value system. Norms, therefore, are rules that are used to perform roles predictably and acceptably. For example, to enforce the value of education, it is a common practice to pursue qualifications through schools, colleges, and universities. The value of hospitality is shown by sharing food, value of respect through greeting or shaking hands. Likewise, the value of economic prosperity can be acquired by pursuing job or initiating business, etc. I hope norms and values are clear to you. Now, what is meant by the term socialization? We have done a bit on socialization in terms of the processes. What is meant by socialization? So we see that culture varies between different societies and historical periods. And sociologists basically argue that culture is learned rather than instinctive, meaning it is not something we are born with. The term socialization refers to the process through which we learn the culture, norms, and values of the society we are born into. So, like there are levels of socialization, like primary and secondary socialization. Sociologists basically distinguish between primary and secondary socialization, emphasizing the different roles played by various social institutions. So, what is primary socialization? It's basically also called as early socialization. And socialization that takes place during the childhood time. Primary socialization occurs during early childhood and is the first stage of learning social behavior. During this phase, infants and young children learn basic behavior patterns, language, and essential life skills. The main agents of primary socialization are families and parents who teach children through interaction, communication, and daily routine. So, this is something really essential for a human being to develop and evolve into a very successful person that can contribute to the society. Then secondary socialization. The moment primary socialization ends, secondary socialization begins. So secondary socialization takes place later in childhood and continues throughout a person's life. This phase involves learning the norms and values of wider society. It is influenced by various social institutions and agents like peer group, that like friends, schools, workplaces, media, and religious institutions. These agents shape how individuals interact with society and reinforce cultural expectations. What are the different agencies of socialization? Let's explore. The first and the foremost agency of socialization is family. Family plays a central role in primary socialization by transmitting cultural norms, language, and social identity to individuals during their formative years. Acting as the first and most influential socializing agent, the family provides role models, both the parents do that, imparts social skills, and offers emotional support, contributing significantly to an individual's readiness for broader social interactions. Peer group or friends, they are very important. Peer group consists of individuals who share a similar social status or position in society, such as those of the same age or occupational background. These groups can exert pressure on their members to conform to shared norms and values, especially in schools and workplaces. Now, we see that this happens a lot during school who's like when students are uh, having a broader type of socialization, making more friends, mostly their age mates are their peers. So like it happens that peers not only have or exert a positive kind of influence, but they can also have something that is not desirable or that can be termed as negative. Individuals who do not conform to peer group norms may face rejection or exclusion from the group. That is also known as there's a technical word ostracism. So like those people are basically outrightly excluded from the group. Schools or educational platforms. They are very essential avenues where socialization takes place, particularly secondary socialization. So in compulsory schooling, students learn how to interact in groups beyond their family. They acquire new skills and adapt to social expectations. Schools enforce rules and regulations, including those related to punctuality and dress. While most students conform to these expectations, some may resist and challenge the authority of teachers. So, we'll be exploring more in the topic of education, in what ways schools basically teach a number of valuable ideas, skills, other different kinds of beneficial set of knowledge, but at the same time, there's some sort of hidden curriculum that is there, which schools are actually teaching to the students in some maybe unintentional ways. Workplaces are again, they are the agents or institutions which facilitate individuals to develop in the phase of later socialization or secondary socialization. When starting a new job, employees must learn the workplace culture. They are required to follow formal rules such as dress codes, punctuality, and health and safety regulations. Informal learning also takes place where employees pick up workplace norms such as workload expectation and which supervisors to be cautious around, managing with the deadlines, being very smart at processing and juggling with the multitasking things, and there are so many things that people learn at the workplaces. Religions also play a very important part in socializing the humans, and there are different people who have differing ideas in terms of following religion or observing some religious beliefs. Religious institutions provide moral guidelines and sanctions for behavior. For example, Christianity teaches followers through the Ten Commandments, while Islam emphasizes practices like the five pillars, including almsgiving to the poor. However, some sociologists argue that secularization is occurring at a fast pace, particularly in the modern industrial societies. That means religion is playing a declining role in socialization. There are evidences for this, which include a falling church attendance within the Church of England. Mass media, another very important socializing agent, and in this day and age, we find mass media playing a very important role. Mass media, including mass media, including television, radio, and newspapers, serve as powerful sources of information and knowledge about the world. Magazines, for instance, influence views on life and relationships. Media, it also plays a role in shaping gender roles, such as through advertisements that portray women doing household chores and men driving cars. Additionally, media contributes to political socialization, like which party to vote for, which particular organization, political organization to look up to, and shaping people's views alongside influences from families and workplaces. Now let's talk about the key ideas of prominent sociologists who have contributed to the subject immensely. The three important thinkers in sociology that have to be studied in a very detailed way, and we'll be dealing with them one by one later on. Karl Marx basically was the belonging to an era from 1818 to 1883. He focused on class conflict and believed society is divided between the rich and poor. His ideas led to Marxism and the study of inequality. Emile Durkheim, another very important sociologist. He's basically the founding father of sociology. He studied how societies stay stable and believed different institutions like schools and families work together like parts of a machine. This is called functionalism, and I'm going to talk about functionalism at great length. Just hold on. And there's also Max Weber. Max Weber is going also, we are also going to talk about Max Weber in the next lesson. Max Weber argued that people's ideas and beliefs shape society, not just money or power. So his work, influenced a lot of people, a lot of social groups in terms of, explaining what symbolic interactionism is. So each of these sociologists have very different perspectives, but they all, gave us, immensely valuable ideas in terms of understanding how society works and how we can improve it. So, let's start talking about them at length. And first amongst them is Emile Durkheim, representing functionalism. Emile Durkheim is recognized one of the founding figures of sociology. His work helped establish sociology as a distinct academic discipline. He introduced key theories that explain how societies function and remain stable over time. For instance, we'll be talking about later on how social solidarity works, how social cohesion is important, in what ways solidarity actually becomes a very cohesive element in terms of binding people together. And, this is basically functionalist perspective that is represented by Emile Durkheim. Durkheim's perspective is known as functionalism, which views society as a system where different parts work together to maintain stability. He compared society to a human body where each part has a role that ensures smooth functioning. Institutions like family, education, religion, mass media, workplace, healthcare, you can name them, and they all contribute to the overall stability of society. According to Durkheim, social facts like norms, values, and laws, all of them shape individual behavior. These external forces exist beyond individuals and help regulate society. If these shared norms weaken, societies may experience instability. In a way, I would conclude that functionalism is a structural viewpoint, and it talks about more of a structure rather than humans as individuals. So, like, there's more emphasis or a stress on structures, which is more powerful and which actually shapes the human behavior and the collective behavior. So his idea, one of his very profound ideas was social solidarity. Durkheim emphasized the importance of social solidarity, which means cohesiveness, which means unity maybe, which refers to the bonds that connect individuals within a society. He identified two types of solidarity, mechanical solidarity and organic solidarity. Mechanical solidarity, by this word, he meant that there's a kind of unity which exists in traditional societies, where people share similar beliefs and values, where they are quite dependent on each other, where they do a lot of multitasking. Like there's a person who's a farmer, but at the same time, that person may be benefiting people in terms of knowing something about. He's a herbalist, and he's providing with maybe the medical care to the people as well. So it's quite a well-knitted society where mechanical solidarity is found, then organic solidarity, which can be found in modern societies, the urban centers, the cities, where there's a lot of hustle and bustle, where people are really busy. So over here, individuals depend on each other due to specialized roles. There's a lot of special kind of division of labor between individuals according to their specialized roles and interdependence. Yes, they are they are dependent on each others, but there's a different kind of interdependence, and that is based on how well a person knows his field or his job. Like there are doctors, surgeons, lawyers, lecturers, and pilots in the cities who perform their specific tasks really smartly and efficiently. So, overall, maintaining social solidarity is essential. According to Durkheim, it's really essential for preventing disorder and conflict in a society. So let's talk about organic analogy that Durkheim talked about. Basically, to understand functionalism, a certain type of, there's a comparison or an analogy. A biological or organic analogy can be used. In other words, we can compare society to the human body. The organic analogy compares society to a living organism where different institutions like family, education, and government function like organs in the human body. Just as organs work together for the well being of a body or the health of a human, social institutions cooperate to ensure social stability or societal stability and order. So this is how Durkheim has actually tried to compare, with human body, the overall system of the society, and there's quite a relationship between the two. So, likewise, in terms of religion and education, Durkheim has got some ideas. Like he believed that religion plays a very important role in uniting people and reinforcing shared values. Religious beliefs provide individuals with a sense of belonging and moral guidance. Even in secular societies, institutions like education serve a similar function by teaching shared norms and values. Similarly, education is vital for social cohesion. Schools help a lot in terms of transmitting cultural values and preparing individuals to contribute to the society eventually. They also instill, certain kind of regularity, type of discipline, and social responsibility among the students so that they learn how to become the efficient members of the society. Now, if we try to evaluate functionalism, there are some points that people have actually highlighted. The criticism of functionalism can be seen through this evaluation. When we see that Durkheim's theories remain quite influential, and functionalism has been criticized for ignoring inequality and conflict within society. Functionalism does provide very beneficial kind of knowledge in terms of how society is united. But critics argue that it focuses too much on social stability while overlooking issues like power struggles and class divisions. The conclusion is that Durkheim's work has laid very important foundation for sociology as an academic discipline. His ideas on social solidarity, functionalism, and the role of institutions continue to shape modern sociological research. And despite criticisms, his theories provide valuable insights into how societies maintain order and stability. So, functionalism basically is one of the baseline perspective. And later on, we'll be delving into more perspectives, like we'll be talking about Marxism, Weberianism, interactionism, as well as feminism. So, let's move forward. So, let's talk about Karl Marx. I hope many of you must be familiar with him, as he was a very prominent scholar. Not he was not just a sociologist, only that we have in sociology we borrow a lot of ideas from Karl Marx, and he was more of a scholar and a political scientist, and maybe a person who has laid a number of theories and significant ideas in terms of economics. But we take a lot of references and borrow a lot of valuable insights for sociology from Marxism. So, Karl Marx's ideas have played a very important role in shaping sociology, particularly through the Marxist approach, also known as Marxism. His perspective has greatly influenced research on social class and continues to be a topic of debate among sociologists. Many scholars have modified and expanded Marxist theories to better understand and to better apply them to modern societies. Now, his very significant ideas that Marx has talked about are capitalist system and modes of production. Now, Marx has highlighted a particular type of economic system that he considered very problematic. Now, we'll be talking about capitalism. What is capitalism? Students, I would tell you that just to simply put it, it's an economic system which is based on free market economy and open businesses, private ownership, and ownership of the property as well. So, like, it's quite a very uh, thriving, human growth oriented market, economic system. Yet, and in the time of Karl Marx, it was the beginning of capitalism, and he saw a number of problems or a number of conflicts and issues within the very baseline of capitalism as an economic system. So let's explore it. Karl Marx has basically argued that to understand how societies develop, we must begin by examining production. He believed that the way people produce the goods they need for survival shapes society. So he has introduced the concept of the mode of production, which refers to the economic system that determines how goods are produced and distributed. So one significant example of this is the capitalist mode of production. Like in the past, in pre-industrial England, maybe there was a system which was agrarian, farm-based, and there were agricultural practices uh, carried by the farmers, the peasants. But when the society grew, industrialization took place, there were development of cities and urbanization. So there was a rise of industries, big cities and settlements, a lot of emphasis on the growth of industries, businesses, and private ownerships. Marx saw over here some very critical things happening in the then England, and we are going to talk about that. So, like over here, mode of production, the theory of Marx in terms of how the means of production, mode of production played a very important part in terms of deciding who's more powerful than the other. So he says that basically the ownership of means of production is something that has to be questioned. Marx identified two essential aspects of the mode of production. The means of production include materials such as raw material, raw resources, machinery, factories, land, and capital, which are necessary for production. Under capitalism, these means of production are privately owned by the capitalist class. So, you know, the other aspect was the social relations of production. One is that means of production were basically owned by those people who were really rich, who they were the owners or the masters, who were the owners of the factories. And the other part was the social relations of production, which refers to the relationship between individuals who were engaged in this whole journey of producing goods. That means production, in short. So in capitalist societies, these relationships are primarily they are based on economic class divisions, which create a structure of dominance and exploitation. So Marx had a very important, issue with that. He saw this as quite problematic that this is a structure which is unjust, which is unfair, which is based on, unfair treatment of maybe the lower classes, the working classes, and happening where sheer exploitation was happening. So in his viewpoint, in Marx's viewpoint, um, uh, there were two main classes. you know like the one was the rich class, the bourgeoisie, the word he has used over here, the French word bourgeoisie, and the others were the workers were called the proletariat. So, according to Marx, capitalism divides society into two main classes: bourgeoisie, the ruling class, the owners, one who own the means of production and hold economic and political power. Their wealth comes from exploiting the working class. The proletariat, that means the masses, the laborers of the working class who do not own property and must sell their labor to survive. Marx argued that the proletariat is subjected to exploitation, as the bourgeoisie seeks to maximize profits by keeping wages very low. So the majority, a lot of profit just went to the pockets of the bourgeoisie, the upper class or the rich people, whereas the working class or the laborers used to work at very meager, at very scanty wages or incomes. Over here, he has found a certain type of a conflict. Marx saw class conflict as the driving force behind social change. He argued that as the gap between the bourgeoisie and the proletariat widened, workers would eventually become aware of their collective exploitation. So, over here, I would also give you an additional idea that it was also a part of his thesis that workers could be exploited or can be trapped into this kind of unfair treatment until they have this, they have this false consciousness that, whatever is good for the whole society is good for them as well. But, the moment revelation is dawned onto them, like they know and that they realize about the collective exploitation, uh, this realization would lead to revolutionary movements aimed at overthrowing capitalism. Marx envisioned a certain type of a socialist revolution which would eventually transition society into communism, and communism was a social, the eventual goal that Marx perceived or envisioned. It was kind of a prediction. And he said that would be this was his prediction that a classless system would be would emerge, where the means of production are communally owned, equally divided, and all in a classless society, uh, all those exploitative things, behaviors would be eliminated, private property would be abolished, and eventually exploitation and inequality would be eradicated as well. And this was something very, this was not quite realized by Marx that how smartly would the capitalist system modify itself later on, and the same happened. The uh, capitalist system of modern societies, modern England or modern Europe or modern America changed. It modified, got a lot of, transformations. There was shifting. There were rights granted and given to the masses, and the laborers got a lot of relief. The kind of treatment which was previously endured by these workers, was somehow, they got some sort of relief. There were breaks, there were leisures, there were holidays, bonuses. And, his prediction did not quite come true to the area he predicted, like England. It did not happen in England, it happened somewhere else. So it was the total, negation of whatever he predicted in terms of a revolution. So, criticism against Marx is that despite the influence of his ideas, Marx's work has faced criticism. Some argue that his focus on class overlooked other significant social divisions, such as gender and ethnicity. Additionally, while he perceived classes primarily determined by economic factors, critics say, and they suggest that social class also involves status and prestige, which cannot be fully explained by economic inequality alone. So who's going to explain it in a better way, and who's going to provide a middle ground? Let's see. So we might be getting, the whole context of it, or maybe the opposing idea or counter ideas to the ideas given by Karl Marx, maybe in the work of Max Weber next time. So um, let's see there are some similarities between functionalism and Marxism. So all in all, we see that there are quite a few similarities between the two. They're not exactly similar. So like while functionalism and Marxism differ in many key aspects, both are structural approaches. They play on a very structural plane, on a very systematic plane, and an organized plane, which examine how society structure shapes individuals and they influence human behavior. However, not all sociologists support these perspectives. Critics argue that structural approaches basically portray individuals as mere puppets or mere followers who have no brain work of their own, who are controlled by social forces beyond their influence. They don't have any independence or intelligence. They don't have any intellect to process things, and they just just get influenced by all these, and manipulative measures. So it's not true. And we'll be definitely getting some counter ideas surely in the next lessons. So next in line, as we will be moving forward, we'll be exploring more, delving into Bex Weber's ideas, key contributions of him, and we'll examine his perspective on society. We'll also explore debate between consensus and conflict theories, very significant ones. They are the hot topics, and you really need to explore in what ways consensus and conflict theories differ, and they basically contribute ultimately to the sociological concepts. And we'll also, lastly, we'll be discussing study skills, very important ones, and through which we'll be exploring statistical data. What is statistical data? What are statistics? What how in what ways they are the very important instruments or tools to understand the sociological research. So I'll meet you very soon in the second lesson. Thank you so much.
So, we have to. Hmm?